This is the Harley-Davidson X440. It's a bike we've seen quite a bit of already because Harley and Hero have released a bunch of images. But today, the bike has launched, and the really exciting news is the price. Hero has pulled a surprise because the starting price for this bike is 2,29,000, which is just a little bit above the classic 350 top spec model. And as you'll see in a minute, this bike has a lot more to offer. Now, since we started with the price, there are 3 variants in total. This is the top spec model, but they all have the same engine, they all have the same TFT display. The differences are in the wheels and in some finishing. The mid-spec model costs 2,49,000 and this model costs 2,69,000. Now, that is exciting, but there is a lot more about this bike to look forward to. And for starters, it's this new 440cc engine. This is an air-cooled engine, it has an oil cooler, and the big talking point is the torque. It makes 38 Newton meters, which is the most of any made in India single cylinder bike. And the only thing that makes more torque than this currently on sale are the Interceptor and the Continental GT 650s. That torque figure is quite close to the KTM 390 and the new Triumph 400. But the difference is this motor makes its peak torque at just 4,000 RPM. And that will dictate the riding experience. Power stands at 27 horsepower. We will be riding the bike very soon and we'll see what this motor is like. Now with this new engine comes a brand new chassis. In fact, this whole motorcycle has been engineered right here in India by Hero MotoCorp at this CIT or Center for Innovation and Technology. It's an entire Hero project with some inputs from Harley-Davidson. And there's a lot of high-end equipment on this bike. You can see the USD fork up front. It's a 43mm unit. That's a nice thick fork, the same size as the KTM 390s. It's got a 320mm front disc, which again is the biggest in the category. The wheels are 18-inch on the front, 17 at the rear. And if you go for the top spec model, you'll get this nice machine finish on the rims and on the engine fins as well. In terms of style, it's not your typical Harley-Davidson cruiser. They've gone for more of a roadster look. It's inspired by the old XR 1200. I think it looks nice from most areas, except there is quite a big gap out here. This air gap is seen on quite a lot of modern motorcycles. It's something we have to deal with. But while we're talking about the bike, most of it is metal. In fact, just a few components are plastic. And despite that, it's still not a very heavy bike. Curb weight is about 190 kilos, which is slightly less than the classic 350. Now, in terms of comfort, I really like the riding position. The handlebars wide, it feels like a big motorcycle underneath you. The tank is big, and then you've got the foot pegs. Very neutral, they're not cruiser-like, they're not sports bike-like. This feels like a riding position you could hold all day long. It also has an 805mm seat height, which again is not too bad for short riders. And as you can see, someone like me seems to fit quite comfortably on the bike as well. As for ground clearance, it's 170mm, which again shouldn't be an issue. Now, another thing that's unique on this bike in the segment is the TFT display. All 3 models get the TFT, but you'll only get the connectivity and navigation and call assist functions if you go for the top model. There's also an interesting feature in the LED headlamp. This bike gets a sensor that tells it when the ambient light is falling, and apparently the headlight comes on automatically. That's new for the segment, and I can't think of any other bike that currently does that, at least any other made in India motorcycles. Now, before we end this video, one thing we need to touch upon is the sound. Hero has really stressed upon how they put so much work into sound engineering, and that's why this exhaust looks the way it does. Not a very nice looking exhaust, but they tell us this bike sounds good. Why don't you tell us for yourself? The mics never really pick up sound very well, but I can tell you that's a deep, clear, raspy thump, and the engine doesn't seem to vibrate very much either. From here, this is a nice sounding motorcycle, but we are riding the bike tomorrow and we will have our review out then. So look forward to finding out what this bike is like to ride. Right now, I'm quite excited.